It's you. The frigid evening air bites at my skin as I throw my car door closed. I feel like I'm lost as I step out into the driveway. The manor looms against the orange sky, casting a faintest shadow over me. I don't let it scare me away. I can't let it. Its windows glow a hazy yellow and look down on me like watchful eyes. There is an unignorable feeling building in my gut. I do not belong here. I can scarcely believe the manor itself belongs here. It looks as though it has been ripped from the past, from a time of lords and balls and cotillion, something I can only hope to experience through my television screen in one of those soapy period dramas. Its walls seem to stretch impossibly high, and its steep roof meets at multiple jagged peaks. The structure is ordered chaos with multiple bays protruding at odd angles, but there is an audacious beauty to the disorder of the manor. My heels clack against the pavement as I step up to the double-wide front doors, as if they sense my presence. They pull open with a low, croaking sound. I have the unshakable feeling that this is my last chance to turn and run away. But what good would that do? It doesn't matter if danger lurks inside the manor. If I try to flee, there may be nothing left to return to, only ashes of what I've strained to hold together for the past 2 years. That was the warning, wasn't it? That's what's at stake. A figure steps out of the door. Against the backlight of the manor's interior, I can't make out a face, but as I strain my eyes and step closer, I realize it's a wasted effort. The figure in the doorway is wearing a mask that in and of itself is featureless, a rounded black plate over the face. He, well, I believe it's a man, beckons me to follow him inside with a wave of his arms. I swallow my unease and follow after my faceless greeter. He leads me down a wide hallway. The interior of the manor gives the impression that nobody lives here. There are no furnishings, and the walls are underdecorated. Blank slates save for the scones that light our way. I wipe the sweat from my palms against my dress, fearing what kind of trap that I've just wandered into. And without a word, my guide shows me to a door at the end of the hall, and he steps aside. He wants me to go inside. I try to peek around the edges of his mask as I approach the door, trying to just catch a glimpse of what kind of expression he might be making under there. But the edges press neatly against the skin and leave me nothing to see. I can't help but wonder if there's even a face at all to be seen beneath that mask. My hand grips the brass doorknob and twists, the door coming open with a click. I step through into a grand dining hall. It is in stark contrast to the rest of the house, with furnishing covering every inch of the space. A large rectangular table stretches across the center of the room, with a crystal chandelier hanging above the center. A towering hutch is sprawled across one wall, displaying a neat arrangement of fine porcelain. And though flames crackle in the fireplace at the far corner of the room, the dining hall still feels very cold. There are 4 seats around the table, one on each side. 2 of them are already filled. At the far head of the table is a kid that can't be any older than 19. He's pale, with dark circles under his eyes that dart back and forth across the room nervously. His lips are pressed tightly together, and I can see his jaw clenching. I can't blame him for being anxious. There's been a whirlpool in my stomach from the very moment I got the letter in the mail. Sitting to the left of the kid is a tall, thin man dressed in a suit that doesn't quite fit. It juxtaposes the kid's baggy hoodie, and I assume this man must have felt the same impulse to dress for this odd occasion that I had. The thin man has a narrow but kind face. Boxy glasses rest on top of his crooked nose. His hair rings around the sides of his head, and the bald skin on top shimmers beneath the chandelier. They both acknowledge me with a glance as I step into the room. I nod my head curtly in return and cross the table, running my hand along the lace tablecloth as I find my seat. It isn't marked with a name card. That would be against the rules. Instead, a pack of Marlboros rests on top of a plate, and I blush, knowing they're meant for me. I set my purse down on the table beside me and take my seat across from the thin man with the kid to my right. We wait in silence for the last empty seat at the end of the table to be filled. It's several agonizing moments before another man barges through the door into the dining hall. He's dressed casually with suspenders that frame his bulging gut. His shoulders are broad, arms thick, and hairy below his rolled-up sleeves. He eyes each one of us in the room with fire before taking a seat. He scoffs at the item on his plate. I'd seen it myself as I walked by earlier, but I'm sure the other two in the room had as well. A golden badge with red accents from the chief of the Northgate Fire Department. It was my first clue to the identity of one of the other people in this room, and a vital one. None of us seem to know what to do as we sit around the table. I look around at my mysterious companions. One of them knows my secret, the ugliest part of me that has threatened to tear me apart from the inside for 2 years now. Tonight, that threat may come to fruition. My eyes are on the chief. Why would he be here? Is he the one? Or is it just to make me scared? It's the chief who finally dares to break the silence. I take it that we all got a letter. All but one, I think. That's the thin man. His voice is mousy, like he had to force the air out of his own lungs. 3 days ago, I got a letter in the mail as well. There was no return address, no indication of who or where it came from. Inside was a single slip of paper that read, "I know what you did. I'm going to tell the world unless you play my game." Below, there was an address for the manor, a date, and a time for the dinner party. On the back, a set of instructions. How to play. Abide by the rules and guess which dinner party attendee knows your secret. Guess correctly and you win. Your secret will be safe. If you guess incorrectly, you'll be punished. But those will be the worst. You only get one guess, so make it count. The rules are, you may not tell anyone at the table your name. You may not leave the table until someone has been accused. An accusation must be made by the end of the dinner party, and the accusation must be unanimous. I don't even know what I'm doing here, the chief barks. I haven't done a thing. There's something in his voice. It's defensive. He's lying. He has done something, and he's testing the room, seeing if anyone will challenge him. My heart slows down just a bit. The chief may be just another player in this game after all, or he's doing a very good job of acting that part. Either way, his presence here wipes away any lingering doubts that this whole thing is some kind of a hoax. Someone in this room definitely knows what I did, and they planted the chief here to make me understand that. How do we start, I ask, but 2 of the other 3 people in the room won't know how to answer, and the third would never say. As expected, the others all stay silent. The door is thrown open a moment later, causing a thin man to jump. 2 masked servants enter the room, each carrying a stainless steel platter in one arm. A bowl of steaming hot soup is placed in front of each of us. The broth smells richly of beef. I feel my throat tighten. The servants vanish back out the door, and silence looms again. I bite down on my lip as I watch the room. The thin man takes up a spoon and dips it into his soup. Before he can fit it into his mouth, the chief shoots up from his chair. "It's you," he declares. The thin man gapes and drops a spoon. It clatters against the bowl and sends a splash of broth that freckles the white lace tablecloth. The chief must have had the same thought as I did. Someone in this room brought us all here just to punish us. They pitted us against each other, and we don't know how far they're willing to take things. They don't want us to trust anything, including this food. The first person to take a bite would be taking a risk, unless they absolutely knew it was safe. What did I do? The thin man asks. That soup's poison for all we know, says the chief, but you dove right in. I didn't think, the thin man stammers. Calm down, I say to the chief. We only get one guess, remember? We need to be sure. The chief grunts and sits back down. None of us touch our soup, the thin man delicately pushing it away from himself now. There's an angle to this game. For now, I have to assume anyone at the table has a secret like mine. Uncovering those secrets is the key to winning this game. But if the others are anything like myself, they won't be willing to reveal their own secrets. If the orchestrator of this game put the chief here to deter me from sharing mine, he's likely took similar measures with the others. I need to get them talking, to make them slip up, and make them reveal too much. What was on your plate when you came in? I asked the thin man. Just these glasses, he says, pushing them up his nose. Jesus, and you put them on? The chief balks. I wonder at the meaning behind the glasses. The pack of cigarettes left on my plate seemed meant to taunt me. Was it the same for the others? And you? I asked the kid. He holds up a cell phone, a screen shattered into a glass web. The thin man's eyes flick toward the kid, then back away. Almost like he's afraid to even look at him. Is there a connection there? I had this pack of cigarettes on mine, I say. So what am I supposed to call you then? The chief complains. Smokey? I don't understand why we can't just say our names. Because that would be too easy, the thin man says. It begs the question why the orchestrator barred us from sharing our own names. What would our names reveal to one another? Too easy to do what? The chief questions. To win, I suppose, says the thin man. What's stopping me from telling everyone here my name right now, says the chief. It's against the rules. Well, who cares about the rules? Then do it, I test him. Tell us your name. The chief's eyes fix on mine. He's thinking exactly what I'm thinking. None of us know for sure what will happen if we break a rule. At the very least, we lose the game. Our secrets would be revealed. But there's that line in the letter. Guess incorrectly and be punished. But whose will be the worst? Whose will be the worst? There's an undeniably sinister note to the line, as if the punishment for failure is far worse than simply having our secrets revealed. There's something else in store for the losers of this game. But what? Breaking a rule would be risking to finding out, and it's clear that none of us are willing to tread that ground. What's going to happen? The chief chuckles, but there's a nervous undertone to it. No offense, but I'm pretty sure if it came down to it, I could take all of you on. He's probably right. I don't stand a chance in a fight against this chief. And it's hard to picture the thin man or the kid getting the upper hand on him as well. But whoever orchestrated this game was confident. They wouldn't have invited a man like the chief without a plan to keep him in line. He knows that too. He eyes us like sharks circling the water, and he doesn't dare give us a drop of his blood. Forget it, he grumbles. He stands up from his seat and crosses to a beverage cart in the corner of the room, taking a bottle of bourbon and popping the cap off. He gulps it straight down from the bottle and lets out a satisfied "ah" when he's done. Hang on, the Thin Man protests. How do we know it's not you now? If the food could be poisoned, so could that drink. Then so be it, says the chief before taking another swig. But I'm not getting through tonight without a drink. He plops back down in his seat, and I make a mental note about the way he's coddling that bottle. I look to my right and notice the kid staring at him too, his eyes wide, almost fearful. Are you okay? I ask. The kid blinks like I pulled him out of a trance. He looks at me and nods almost impersonally. No exit, the Thin Man whispers. What was that? I ask. No exit, he repeats, louder this time. John Paul Sartre. It's a play about three people locked in a room together, except the room is in hell. Hell is other people. Sounds awfully familiar, the chief chimes in. Do you think whoever brought us here was trying to replicate that play? I asked the Thin Man. It must be him then, says the chief. I've never heard of that stupid play. He's the only one going on about it. Just because I'm more well-read than this oaf does not mean I set this all up, the Thin Man retaliates. What did you call me? And the kid stifles laughter at this. It's the first time I've seen him look something other than petrified. Something funny, the chief growls, and the kid retreats further into his chair, shaking his head. In the play, the Thin Man continues, the characters confess their crimes to one another. Maybe we're supposed to do the same. Well, you first, the chief scoffs. The Thin Man's mouth falls open, but he can't summon any words. He drops his chin, ashamed of himself. That's what I thought, says the chief. He takes another long swig of bourbon. He's gone through about a third of the bottle already. Anybody else want to give it a go? Though it's not against the rules, no one wants to be the first to show their hand or share their secret. The room falls back into silence, and as if on cue, the masked servants come through the door once again with fresh platters. They take away our untouched appetizers and place unique plates down in front of each of us. When they lift the lid off my plate, I see a blackened mass of food. It's all been burned to a crisp. Another taunt. Two pungent smells wave toward me from either side, competing for dominance. From my left, the chief's food smells as though it's been soaked through in liquor, and from my right, the kid's food smells raw and rotten. I choke down a gag. We all eye the Thin Man. His plate is empty. What's that about? The chief questions. I don't know, the Thin Man insists. We all get this fucked up food and you get nothing? That's suspicious if you ask me. Will you stop accusing me over every little thing? Hearing these two at each other's throat makes my mouth water for a cigarette. I find my hand subconsciously reaching for the pack of Marlboros before I pull it away. Another look at my charred plate wipes the craving from my mind. Both the place markers and the meals had been meant to remind us that someone in the room knows our secrets. But that also means that I can use them to my advantage, to use them as clues. A fire chief with a penchant for drink, a broken cell phone and rotten meat, a pair of glasses and an empty plate. The Thin Man's clues are so nondescript it's harder to gather any meaning from them at all. My suspicion shifts towards him, but I'm not ready to make any final accusations yet. I ponder over the other clues as well. The chief has already given a clear enough image of himself, even without the second clue. There's nothing new to gain there, so now I focus on the kid. I try to piece together the meaning behind his two clues, but I can't think of a connection. The rotten meat on his plate makes me think that whatever secret he's keeping is a gruesome one. It would explain the fear written in bold across his face. He may have the most to lose tonight. I feel sorry for him, but I'm also afraid of him. The chief looks down at my plate, notes the pack, untouched, of cigarettes beside it. Feeling like you need a puff yet? My heart pangs, fearing he's figured me out. Keep that habit up and your lungs will be looking like that plate of yours. Oh boy. The irony as he takes another swig from his bottle. I already quit, I say. 2 years ago, in fact. There's something judgmental in the chief's tone that makes me explode. Do you have a problem? Let's just say I'm not all that impressed with my current company. Some of his words are beginning to slur together. Because you're a class act, I argue. The chief slams the fist down on the table, sending a shock wave across it as it rattles all of our plates. I save lives for a living. I'm a goddamn hero. What the hell do you do? A laugh escapes from my chest. Hero? You wouldn't be here if that was the case. You think you know something he accuses? I think I can put this together, I say. You're barking up the wrong tree. The chief's face is red, and not just because of the alcohol. He takes another drink, and it spills down his chin. He's disgusting. You're so quick to make accusations, says the thin man. How do we know it's not you? I'm the only one making the effort to figure this thing out. You really think that's true, I ask him. It's a good cover, the thin man theorizes. You're taking the attention off yourself and putting it on everyone else. Am I not the center of attention right now? You're so full of yourself, I groan. Watch it, the chief warns. Only someone so full of himself would create a game like this, the thin man mutters. Or someone so insecure, the chief presses back. We're getting nowhere with this bickering. The clock is ticking down. Through two large windows in the wall behind the kid, I can see the last glimmers of sunlight fading over the horizon. We only have until the end of the meal to make our accusation, and none of us are on the same page. Is it possible the chief is trying to simply derail us, keep us distracted with senseless arguing until time runs out? It feels like I'm giving him too much credit. You seem to think you know a lot about me, the chief says to the thin man. What else do you know, huh? I only know what you've shown me tonight. Oh, you sure about that? The chief presses. You sure you don't know any supposed secrets about me? I don't. The chief shoots up from his chair and staggers on tipsy legs. What are we waiting for? It's him. It's gotta be. Let's make the accusation and get the hell out of here. Are you with me, kid? The kid's mouth falls open, but the only sound that comes out is a weak string of ums and uhs. His eyes dart wildly around the room, and for a moment I see them connect with the thin man's. He meets the kid's gaze for only a second before averting his eyes. It's the second time I've caught him doing that. There's something in the thin man's eyes when he looks at that kid. Something that looks like guilt. And a guilty man couldn't be the orchestrator. Guilt implies secrets. How do you two know each other? I ask the thin man, cutting through the mounting tension in the room. We don't know each other. Then why do you keep looking at him like that? A sweat breaks out of the thin man's forehead. I've never met him before. Bullshit, says the chief. You're lying, I follow up. I look at the kid. I'll ask you the same question. How do you two know each other? The possibility dawns on me that more than one of the other dinner guests has orchestrated this game. The thin man and the kid could be in the league with each other. The game may have been rigged from the start. That would make sense. If the goal was to punish us for our secrets, why let us win? I wait for a response. The chief is less patient than me. Say something! The kid's face is paralyzed in fear. You've been awfully quiet tonight, kid, says the chief. Answer the question, now. He's right. I realize now that I haven't heard the kid speak a single word since I sat down. The smell of his rotting meat rakes through my nostrils, threatening to make me sick. What does it mean? The dining hall door is thrust open again, and the servants have returned, hoisting fresh platters over their heads. It's time for the dessert course. We're running out of time. Hey, the chief shouts, rounding unsteadily on one of the servants. Get out of here with that. I'm sick of the bullshit. The chief throws himself at the servant, but he bounces off as if the masked man is made of stone. He tumbles pitifully to the floor. The kid doesn't hold back his laughter this time. His eyes are wide with amusement, and his cackle is the loudest it's been all night. It's directed at the chief, but I feel it drilling into myself in equal measure. The servants place down our final course and lift the lids off all 4 plates simultaneously for the big reveal. A single fortune cookie rests on each of our plates. None of the others seem to notice. The kid is too busy laughing at the chief rolling around drunkenly on the floor, and the thin man looks petrified as he gazes up at the kid. I reach for my cookie and I break it open. I unfold the slip of paper inside that reads, "Reckless burning. Felony. 6 years." My sentence. What will happen to me if my secret ever gets out? I feel the muscles in my throat grow tight and struggle for air. The cookies are the final clue, our last chance to win this game. While he's still on the floor, I race over to the chief's plate and crack open his fortune cookie. "What do you think you're doing, you bitch?" he squeals. I read his fortune, and my heart skips a beat. Reckless driving, hit and run. Vehicular homicide, 20 years. Yeah, some hero. "Put that down," the chief hollers. He's finally gotten himself to his feet. "I didn't give you permission to read that." The chief grabs my arm and rips the fortune out of my fingers, reading it for himself, and his face goes pale. The kid hasn't stopped laughing at him. Is he laughing at the chief, or is he laughing at all of us? I wrench my arm free from the chief's grasp and stare daggers at the thin man. "What does yours say?" I demand. He breaks away the cookie and reads his own fortune. His face falls, and he hands me the slip of paper willingly. Coward, eternal guilt. It's different from mine and the chief's, but no less demanding. I look up at the kid. "I'm ready to make an accusation," I announce. The corners of the kid's lips tick upward in a smile. "You figured it out?" There's an unsettling quality to the kid's voice. It's raspy and feels breathless, like the words simply flowed out of his mouth with no force behind them at all. There's not any doubt in my mind any longer that he's the one who brought us all here. He breaks open his own cookie and presents his fortune to the rest of us. There's nothing on the paper but an image of a skull and crossbones. "It's you, but how do you know?" the chief asks. "There was no one around. How do you know what I did?" The kid's smile stretches into a full rictus. "It was an accident," the chief cries in a weak attempt at defending himself. "There was a fire. I was in a hurry." "A fire?" I ask, realization slapping me across the cheek. "How many years ago was the accident?" 2 years, says the chief. My heart pounds in my chest. "And you?" I ask the thin man. "How many years have you been keeping your secret?" 2, he says. Of course. We weren't summoned here at random. How could I have not seen that sooner? We were brought in here to be punished, but not individually. We were being punished for the same crime by the victim. "It all started with you, Miss Whitaker," says a kid. That's my name. It feels jarring to hear it said aloud in the room. Taboo. "How many packs a day did you smoke?" the kid wonders. 1, 2? More than you've been willing to admit, that's for sure. "And what did you do? You'd smoke those cigarettes down to a nub. You flicked them aside. Until one evening, in the fall, a pile of leaves caught fire, and it spread fast. It was you, the chief realizes. You started the fire that night. It was all your fault. I wouldn't be so quick to throw blame around, Chief Bramber says a kid. You were on call that night. But where were you? At the bar, staring down the bottom of a bottle. When that call came in, you didn't want to get in trouble. So you didn't mention the fact that you'd been drinking. You just got behind the wheel in your car and drove off. You were so drunk, you hardly even registered the person standing in the road right in front of you. You only realized when you felt them crumple underneath your tires. But did you stop? Answer me, Chief. I had to get to the fire before it spread any further, Chambers said meekly. No excuses, the kid roars. Did you stop? No. Of course not, the kid smiles unpleasantly. But someone did, right, Mr. Bennett? The thin man recoils at the sound of his own name. As the kid talks, I notice his form begin to change. The skin on his face begins to crack and peel away like aged leather, curling up in sickening ribbons. I realize then that the kid isn't merely someone who has been affected by this tragedy. He's not doing this on someone else's behalf. He is the one. You found me broken on the road, says the kid. You stumbled out of your car and staggered over to me. I was barely clinging to life. And what did you do? You did nothing. For 20 minutes you sat there like an idiot while I died. I was in shock. So was I. And by the time you called the police, it was too late. I was already dead. What do you mean? Chambers asks. The urge to run builds in my gut as I recognize what's happening. Whatever this kid is, he's not human anymore. The human version of him died on that road 2 years ago, and this is what's left. His anger has brought him back in this twisted form to take revenge. I mean that you killed me, Chief. The kid stands and licks his lips. His tongue is as dry and cracked as the rest of his skin, and it peels away another layer from his lips. Blood bubbles up in place of the missing skin. He steps up onto the table and walks slowly across it. I can hear the wood groaning beneath his weight despite the fact that he's thin as a twig. Every step towards Chambers is filled with purpose. I wonder why Chambers isn't running. Is he too scared? Is he too damn drunk? Your crime was the greatest. It only makes sense that I start with you. The kid bends down over Chambers and places a hand on top of his head, and for a moment it looks like nothing's happening. But then I notice the skin flaking up around the kid's knuckles as he squeezes. Pressure builds on Chambers' skull. He begins hauntingly as one eye bulges out of place. A blood-red tear streaks down his face just before his head pops like a water balloon. Viscera sprays across my dress. I feel warm, wet clumps sticking to my skin, but I don't make a sound. I wonder which of us is going to be next, me or Bennett. The kid licks Chambers' blood off his fingers with his cracked tongue. The blood almost seemed to soak into it, revitalizing it. The kid turns around and makes his choice. His eyes fall on Bennett. No, please, Bennett cries. I'm sorry. The words are pointless. They won't sway the kid. He hops down from the table and steps up to Bennett. The kid's fingers curl around Bennett's throat. I stay just long enough to see Bennett's skin begin to unfurl in the same way as the kid's before I make a run for it. I charge out of the room, surprised to find the door isn't locked. Bennett's screams are agonizing. I can't help but picture him as the skin slows off in painful strips. I can't slow down, or the same will happen to me. I run straight down the wide, empty hall to the front door, and my heart leaps when I find it unlocked as well. I stagger over to my car and search frantically for my keys. Why can't I find them? My purse! I had a purse and I left it inside. I turn and see the kid silhouetted in the doorframe at the front of the manor. I lose all will to keep fighting and try to come to terms with my fate as he slowly walks over to me. I slide down to my knees, feeling the prickle of asphalt against my skin. The kid crouches down in front of me, and I prepare myself for the worst pain I think I'll ever experience. I hope, at least, it will be quick. The kid holds out my palm and drops my car keys to them. My breath hitches as I just look up at him. He's already walking away. Why? I choke out. He turns to face me one last time. You were the only one that tried to change. And then he walks back up to the steps of the manor and closes the door behind him, taking all our secrets with him.